In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome back, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, the Get Fundable universe, and the Get Fundable. What can I say? This is the Get Fundable. Today, it's all about the mayhem because I have a special treat for all of you. Today, my guest is going to be Gerritt Bake. Yes, that is in Shake and Bake. Gerritt Bake, and he is one of my coaches and one of the men who is contributing so powerfully to me becoming the CEO I've always wanted. Anyway, more on that in a minute. When we come back, we're gonna drive. Yeah, we're going to dive real deep into what does it mean to convert your your hobby into a business and what we can do about it. We've had a series of these in the past, and now I'm bringing you my coach, Gerritt Bake. We'll see you in just a minute. Welcome back. All right, Get Fundable Universe. I have a treat for you today. My guest today is Gerritt Bake. I call him Coach Gerritt, and Coach Gerritt is one of a very small group of individuals that I am having me coach on how to build enterprise value in my business. So, first of all, welcome, Gerritt. Glad to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Merrill. I'm excited to be here.
Now, I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment, but I want to tell you guys why he's here from my perspective. And as many of you know, I joined the Multiple Club. It's what I thought was a mastermind group, which turned into a personal and soulful revolution of my entire being. And I was attracted to this group because they were going to help me build an enterprise that was worthy of investment or was attractive to be purchased. Well, the first day that I get to my first outing with these guys, I learned about what's called IV instead of enterprise value, IV, and the rug got pulled out from underneath me, and I landed smack dab on my face. Coach Gerritt was key and instrumental in making sure that I got back up, dusted off, and I'm now having a blast. I've never had more fun in a business in my life. So, Gerritt, tell us a little bit about you. Tell my audience a little bit about you and how you ended up being like this coach magnificent, and how you contribute to building IV and EV. And let's play in all that.
I appreciate that, Merrill. We could be here all day, me trying to introduce myself with all the interesting things that I've experienced in life, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, as they say. I'm actually originally from Arizona. I was a police officer down there for 15 years in Mesa, which is a suburb of Phoenix. Thoroughly enjoyed my career, the people I worked with, the city. But I got to this point, you mentioned it briefly earlier. I got to this point where my business, if you will, and I had a job, obviously, as a police officer, was overtaking my personal life, right? And I know that most people struggle with this idea of work-life balance, and we'll get into that later. But ultimately what had happened was I had to make a choice. And the choice was, in my mind, that I had to choose one or the other. I had to choose business or my family, right? And too many times, especially men, choose business, right? Thinking that money is going to solve all of their problems, but not understanding that a business without a personal life or a foundation to stand on is just going to fall apart. And that's what happened with me, right? And so I got to this point where I had to make the decision, and the decision was like, what's more important to you? And at that point, I said, okay, I need to build a solid foundation in my personal life. And I went down the path of personal development, if you will. A few years, a few $100,000 later, I had built this rock solid foundation. But ultimately, what it created was an opportunity for me. And this was an opportunity to start a business, if you will, helping other people do the exact same thing. And so I retired almost 4 years ago and have been doing so ever since. Now, I have
retired from being a police officer.
Yes, from being a police officer.
And going full-time, full hog into actually guiding people down the very self-awareness path that you yourself just have been on, correct?
Exactly. And there's this thing, and I know a lot of your followers and your listeners have this idea that they're more important than they are, because that was me. But when you have a job, you really are just a cog in a wheel. And if you leave, they will quickly replace that cog and the wheel just keeps spinning, right? And when you realize that, it's actually not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because it allows you to see how many opportunities are in front of you, which a lot of your followers, again, are real estate investors and so on and so forth. And they're starting to see this, right? But really the supercharger in the whole thing is building that solid foundation in your interpersonal value so that you can explode your enterprise value.
Yes. So let's discuss that. So back to when I met you. So here I am. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. from picked up at my hotel. All of us were staying at the same hotel. Picked up at our hotel, and I'm thinking I'm going. They said wear all black. I'm thinking I'm going to a seminar on how to build enterprise value, right? How to get my business ready for investor funding. And so we passed the office, and then we passed 3 or 4 stoplights, and we're now on an oceanfront drive on our way to a beach in Newport Beach. And I'm like, I do not know what's happening. So maybe, okay, let's go get some the blood going through our veins, right? Let's get pumped up. Let's get excited. This, that, and the other. Yeah, no, this was an exercise in finding out that my business is exactly where I am as a human being. And that we would take a look at my business in a moment as a projection of me, but Gerritt, kind of walk us through when you say interpersonal value, why did when I ended up at the beach and I'm finding out that I'm a slug, and my business is a slug, that's weird. Why would those two be the same? Walk us through it.
I love that you said that. We can't give away all the dirty little secrets though, Merrill.
No problem.
The point is we don't understand how related our personal life is to our business. Like the business,
not countering it, but they're actually one leverages the other, right?
Exactly. So when you think about this, whether you're an employee or whether you're a business owner or you're both, ultimately a business doesn't have problems. A business has people and their problems. And if you are the owner, guess what? You're dragging all of your problems to the office every day. Yes. Don't believe me. How many days have you had where you had a fight with your spouse at home and then you try to get something done at work?
And then it's just as shitty at work. Right?
Exactly. Or if you had a really bad day at work and then you go try and be connected with your family at home, right? It becomes this fight back and forth. And that's why so many people in their mind think that they have to choose one or the other. When in actuality, there's one that's a foundation that builds the other, and then the other reinvests into the first, right? And it's this constant cycle. But what most people don't realize, again, is that it's interpersonal value. In other words, the time and effort you spend on yourself, your loved ones, and creating that allows you to create the exponential enterprise value.
Yeah. So guys, that's where I am. I'm on the beach. Can't give away all the goodies, but we're on this beach that I'm thinking I'm supposed to be learning how to be a better businessman. And what I'm actually learning is how I'm staring myself in the face at how little I had taken care of myself. And then I discovered that my business was a direct relationship a direct projection of how well I was honoring me. And yeah, we could go back to the good book. We could go back to any philosophy says you can only love someone or something else as much as you love yourself, because how much we love ourselves is how big the glass is. Where we put the water is based on where our priorities are, right? But we can't love somebody more than we love ourselves. And I discovered, Gerritt, as you well know, I wasn't loving myself very much at all. So you're saying Ivy, interpersonal value equals enterprise value, or in some cases for some business, the exit value for the business, right? How much is being acquired for, sold for, or otherwise. So kind of walk me through your relationship with why. I know the reason, but my audience doesn't. Why did they choose you as one of the very few coaches, the very few people to have so that I could wake up to this? What is it about your background and your skill set and you as a coach that and your experience that where I would be blessed by knowing you and your gifts and your perceptions about me while you were giving me feedback about how well I was doing in the world.
Well, I appreciate that. Most people, though, when they first meet me, don't have the same love, we'll call it, for me and my approach. I'm very direct in my approach. If you remember, I spent 15 years as a police officer. I was not the shaking hands and kissing babies police officer. I was the one that you probably didn't spend time with unless you were doing something really, really bad. So I spent most of my career working on the gang unit, working on the SWAT team, working undercover, and ultimately supervising an organized crime squad. And every single day of my career was spent making sure that whatever it was that we were doing had a plan and was executed according to the plan. Because if not, people's lives were on the line. Literally, people's lives were on the line. At times it was mine, at times it was a partner or someone that was working for me. But ultimately, somebody's life or multiple people's lives were on the line. And so it was so important to have clarity. It was so important to have accountability. It was so important to have a plan to execute on. Because if not, again, things were going to go sideways and it was not going to be good. Right. And so when you think about a business, though, and I know a lot of new investors and new business owners treat their business like a hobby. They treat it like something that they take care of on the weekend. Right. It's like, well, when do you mow your lawn on the weekend? Right. And you wonder why it looks like half as good as your neighbor's. Well, it's because you don't take care of it. Right. And so business owners want to grow and scale their business, whether it's real estate investing or otherwise, but they're not willing to put the time and the effort and the planning into making it that way, right? So when you ask, why is it that people want me to work with them or ask to work with me or whatever you want to call it, ultimately it's because I bring three things: clarity, accountability, and commitment to the game called life. And a lot of times we don't start with your business, as you very well experienced. We start with you, and we start with your personal life. Because I know exactly what your business is like by knowing who you are as an individual, by knowing how it is that you take care of your family, by knowing how it is that you take care of yourself.
Yeah. So go over those three again, because I want to bring them up one by one. First of all, clarity. I have clarity calls with you. I mean, literally the point of the call is to get more clear, right? Clarity, commitment, and
accountability.
Right. So in this process, you guys, and this is why he's my coach, is because I have the desire to be the best human being that I can be. But I thought I was spending all of my time on the business, and that would create the great returns. And then I could be a slug over here on the sideline and just eat poorly and veg out in front of the TV and not take care of my physical body and not do anything. But I'll never miss a day of work. I'll even work weekends, and I'll just keep plodding along on the business. And yet, the sharpening the blade metaphor comes to mind, right? You tell the story of the two guys who are working their way hatcheting through the through a forest, right? And one guy is just beating himself blind because he's running through X number of trees. The other guy did like 3 times the number of trees. And there's like, why did you get so much more done than I did? And you didn't work as much. I said, well, I was sharpening the blade. After every tree, you sharpen the blade. And that's one of the things that you are so good at as a resource, and what we as entrepreneurs need. Whether it's Coach Gerritt, I was just calling you Coach Gerritt, whether it's Coach Gerritt or somebody in your life, you need a point of accountability, because the hobbyist in us just says, oh, I'm just going to go out in the garage and tinker around on my business, right? Like you alluded to. But guys, without a point of an external point of accountability, and it can't be your wife, it can't be one of your children, it's got to be somebody who cares enough about you to look at your blind spot and tell you the truth. So Gerritt, what would you say are the 3 experiences or principles? Kind of go through those 3 that you talked about. What is the importance of clarity in this framework? What's the importance of the accountability, et cetera?
Right. And I know a lot of your audience, they're real estate investors. So I'm going to kind of take that path. When you think about clarity inside of a business, what is clarity, right? Clarity is knowing where you're at. It's knowing where you're going, but ultimately it's knowing how you're going to get there, right? And I like to equate it to GPS. I know we're in 2021, everybody uses GPS, but back in the day, you and I, yes, we're old enough. You remember the old Rand McNally maps we would all unfold on long road trips, and we'd get a Sharpie or a marker, a highlighter, and we'd trace out the path, and we'd make sure we made it there, especially driving to California and their crazy freeways. But what allowed us to do that, to get from point A to point B, was having that starting point, knowing exactly where we're at, which ultimately helped us determine the path to get to where we're trying to go. The issue that most business owners have today is that they are unwilling to look at the reality of their current situation, which is what happened to you on the beach, right? It was the reality of your current situation. You can talk about how, in shape or how good you take care of yourself or so on. You could talk about that all day long, but we run you through a test and the truth is going to come out, right? And everything that's happened to you, by the way, has happened to me multiple times. But it's that clarity that allows us to determine that path, right? Just like with GPS, the only way GPS works is it has to pick up the signal about exactly where you're at right now. If it can't, then you're never going to get to where you're trying to go, right? So that's why clarity is so important. The second one, accountability. You've experienced this. I think most business owners in some way, shape, or form were an athlete when they were younger or loved organized sports, right? They loved the team environment, but what was it about the team environment that they loved? Well, yes, they loved the camaraderie, they loved the group, but ultimately they loved somebody, a coach that could hold them accountable to what it was that they said they were going to do. That's it. That is it. And so it's so important for you. And you mentioned this earlier. It doesn't matter. You can call them a coach, a mentor, whatever you want, accountability partner, but ultimately you need somebody outside of your circle that's going to tell you the truth and hold you to the level that you said you were going to play at or do the things that you said you're going to do. Right. And then the last piece is commitment. What I've noticed in my life is it's not about how big of actions that I take on a day-to-day basis. It's about the commitment to the actions, right? Because that's what matters. Some days you're going to move the needle a whole lot. Some days it's not going to seem like it's moving at all, but it's that commitment to every single day, wake up and take the actions necessary. They're going to help you get there. You talk about real estate investing right now. Like it is a game. We'll call it a game.
It is, seriously.
It is, astronomically changed. And if you're not prepared for the changes, you're going to be overpaying for a property that, let's be honest, there's going to be a reset at some point. You're going to be caught with your pants down. And now you're not going to be a real estate investor anymore. Now you're going to be in debt and you're going to be paying off debt with your old W-2 job. So it's so important, again, clarity, accountability, and commitment to the actions necessary to get you where you want to go the right way, not the shortcut, not the cheat code, not how can I become a Bitcoin millionaire? I'm sure there's some out there. But the point is, you can get to wherever it is that you want to go leveraging those three things.
So, amen, amen, amen. Because you've seen, and I've got to say, I've seen shifts in me, and I've seen some anchors that I keep just dragging along because I know they'll shift, but at some point, I'm still, there are a couple of things that I'm still struggling with, right? And so, you guys, I don't care who it is. You've got to have an accountability partner, a coach, a mentor, somebody who will see the truth of your situation and help you face the music, right? Mine was, in fact, when we were at my first MC weekend, I came in and I was all proud. Yeah, I'm out of bed like 5, 6 in the morning. I'm straight to my workstation. I'm 14 to 16 hour days, and I'm just hustling, and the business is growing, and I'm doing great. And I was very soon to learn that I couldn't run for shit on sand. I couldn't, when they put me through my where is your business test, which had to do with my physical body, I was failing. And so I had this, what do you call it? Double bind. Two things are true that are opposite at the exact same time, right? A paradox. My business is growing, but I'm exhausted, tired, and I'm literally dragging my carcass to the office, and I'm just letting my natural energy be the thing that's motivating me. I got no motivations other than the drive and will to win. And that, so I'm the guy using the axe, and I'm dull as hell, and I'm just chopping and chopping and chopping and chopping, and I'm falling trees. And I think the number of trees that I'm felling is a good number. And then I come with Coach Gerritt and learn that half the work it could create. There was such a sorry, awesome, amazing lesson, but half the work can create twice the results, and leaving me time to have more balance, right? To spend time on my body and on my being, on the balance of my life, right? Not just 100% of my life in business. So Coach, what would you in addition to those three things, the accountability, the commitment, and the clarity, how does my audience navigate the hobbyist? What is it? How do we get them from doing a flip a quarter? They want to do more, but they haven't got any discipline like me, right? I mean, find a bunch of Merrills out there, Coach, and what would you tell them who want to do more? They've successfully done some, but have little to no belief in themselves and or discipline to execute.
You hit the nail on the head there at the end. People think that actions equal results, right? And we've been told action. Just work harder, work some more.
More.
The Gary V model, I like to call it, right? Hustle and grind. I don't know if that guy sleeps. I think he's a robot. And then you go to the other extreme, and you have Tim Ferriss, who came out with this book called The 4-Hour Work Week, and everybody consumes that book like it's crack cocaine. The problem is, like, it doesn't exist on either ends, right? Either end is going to kill you. Either your business is going to go under, or you are, right? So it's really not either of those ends. But what it comes down to is your belief system, right? And it's whether you believe that something is possible or not is going to determine the actions that you take, and those actions are going to determine your results, right? So it's not just taking actions.
Belief, taking actions that determine results.
Correct.
Did I miss one in there?
I don't believe, for example, that, I can gain 20 pounds of muscle, then I will never take the actions at the gym. Even though I go to the gym and work out, I will never take the actions necessary to gain those 20 pounds of muscle, right? Conversely, if you're trying to lose 50 pounds, if you don't believe you can lose 50 pounds, you might work out, you might go run, but you're not going to do the actions necessary to get the results. And so you lose 10 pounds, you say, like, see, I couldn't do it. right? It's called the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
So belief leads to actions to results. So if you're a hobbyist at the time and you want to do more, sounds good, right? But do you really believe you can do more? And if you believe you can do more, the opportunities are out there. We've had the conversation about money being in abundance all over the place. It is. Trust me. If you don't believe me, go start messing around with Bitcoins and NFTs. You'll be like, this isn't even real money. And all of a sudden people are going crazy and they're buying things with it and paying their NFL salary and all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Right.
It's just an imaginary thing. So money is just value. That's all it is. If you're looking to do more, you have to ask yourself the question, what do I believe that's possible? If you're doing 1 flip a quarter, or 2 flips a quarter possible? Are 3 flips a quarter possible? If you tell yourself yes, then you're going to go find the necessary things that you need in order to make that happen, whether that's to get more fundable, whether that's to find the actual properties that you need, or to find the contractors, or whatever it is,
Right.
in particular to your business that you're going to need to execute on that. Now, you've experienced this, and I have as well. Over the last 30 days, the last 90 days, you made massive impact and massive results, because what changed was your belief system, right? What you saw as being possible. And that began with you and investing in you, and has then transpired or gone through into your business.
Yeah, I got to share back to the point of accountability. We, as a group, there were 25 of us at the time that are in this cohort, and I was asked, so by the time we go to second quarter, what major previously unthinkable things can you attain this quarter, right? It's got to be a stretch. It can't be just like, oh yeah, I'll just do what I did last year. And I've been working on client-facing software so that my clients can have more interaction with their stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's outrageous. That's like a 6-month, 9-month, maybe even a 12-month process. But there was a little peer pressure among us. Everybody's like, what are you going to stick to? And we're holding you to it. And so I chose SaaS, software as a service. So I'm going to have client-facing software by Q2, and I'm going to do 300. I was going to certain sales goals. So I think it was 300,000. What is it? $300,000 in the first quarter. This is my slowest quarter. So I'm on the hot seat, because every single week we meet as a team. That's accountability piece. We meet as a group, as a team, and we go down. Are we on track or off track? On track or off track? And I'm like, I noticed, and I got to tell you this from your coaching, coach Gary. I noticed that I became a little more clear and created more accountability with my team on sale, rather than leaving it to themselves, because I was focusing on other things. I'm like, hey, what are we doing this month? Where are we on the 10th of the month, rather than looking at the 20th of the month? So everything you're talking about, everything you've taught me, Coach, is that it is the belief has to be there. And even though it might be a stretch, and I nailed both of these this time, and I didn't hit my weight goals. I didn't hit my physical training goals, but I did hit the business goals. Isn't that typical of me? The business comes first, but I want to thank you publicly in front of all of my tribe, that your contribution and your inspiration to stay on track, right? On track, off track, to stay on track and keep delivering results. We exceeded our 300,000 significantly, and and now I'm raising my goal for Q2, right? Because why not? It worked last time, and I'm kind of the doubting Thomas kind of guy sometimes in some things. So as we wrap up here, based on that, kind of the accountability and the what would you, in your heart of hearts, what would be the heart message to my tribe about challenges they might be facing and how they can overcome those challenges so that they can get to a point of accountability and clarity, and be able to and improve their commitment? What would be steps or a philosophy, or just from your heart to mine to theirs, if they're struggling? How do we overcome? How do we believe in ourselves? Because we got to believe first, right? So what thoughts and ideas or strategies that you have?
Right. And thank you for that. First of all, congratulations, Merrill. And again, here publicly, I want to say congratulations, because you doubted, you didn't think it was really possible. I mean, you kind of like throwing numbers out there. A lot of people are, but you're one of the very few that hits every single one of his numbers. Right. And it's because, again, yes, you had some doubts at the beginning, but ultimately you took the action necessary to generate those results, right? You believed that it was possible, and here you are. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. It was, now I need to work on my weight goals. That's my next
We'll get there. Don't worry. We'll get there. But there's a book written by a gentleman named Ryan Holiday, and it's called The Obstacle is the Way. You were going to say?
Guy, will you order that, please? The obstacle. I'm already on it, guys. Beautiful. The obstacle is the way.
Obstacle is the way. It's written by Ryan Holiday. What he did is he went and researched the teachings of the Stoics, if you will, Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius and some others. And it's really interesting, his approach to Stoicism and what they were teaching. But really, the entire methodology is all around understanding that the obstacle is the gift, right? The obstacle is the thing that helps us get to where it is that we want to go to, right? Too many times in life, we want it to be easy. We want it to be simple. We want it to be shorter, not as hard, not as painful. Right. But ultimately, that's what creates the person necessary to run the business the way it needs to be run, or to scale the business to the level it can be scaled to. When you think about a diamond, for example, what is the difference between a diamond and a piece of coal? The only difference between those two things is time and pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure, yes. But diamond, coal, right? And which is more valuable? It's a diamond, right? So more pressure, more time, the bigger the diamond, right? And so in life, it's about switching back to your mind. It's about switching the way of thinking that you have and saying, you know what? Yes, it's going to be hard to generate $300,000, to do 8 flips this year, to raise $200,000, whatever it is, it's going to be hard, but you have to welcome that obstacle. You have to welcome that thing as an opportunity for you to grow, for you to become more, right? Because the current version of you isn't capable of that. The Merrill that I met in November was not capable of building a SaaS by the end of March. He wasn't, which is why in his mind, he said 6, 12, 9, 14, 16, 24 months, that because it was just going to keep extending, right?
Right.
But you put yourself in the container where there was, yes, pressure, positive pressure, but pressure nonetheless, right? And that helped accelerate the timeline, because you said, okay, this is the obstacle, this SaaS, but the opportunity is actually the SaaS. And you and I have both talked about different opportunities that already exist inside of using that in different spaces with different audiences. So ultimately, it's embracing the opportunity through the obstacle that allows us to get the results that we're after.
Yeah. See, that's brilliant. I'm gonna get that book. Everybody grab the book. Because we don't have our own book club, but we might as well, because I'm always recommending something that I do, right? I'm all about that's my library, and they end up from one side and they go to the other when they've been read. So thank you for that. What I'm hearing you say is that I'm right. Me right now, Merrill does not have the power to have $100 million company, but the journey to the $100 million company will create the hero that will be the leader of a $100 million company.
Amen.
Wow. Dude, I asked for something from the heart, and now you're just gonna make me cry. So we get to be right, guys. You're not enough. You're not enough today, right now, to do that thing. You're enough to do this thing. But if I'm hearing you right, Gerritt, I'm enough to do what I'm doing, but I am not enough the journey will teach me how to get there and how to become that man, that business owner, that parent and friend and associate partner.
The journey creates the man or the woman, right?
Yes.
So the $100 million Merrill, he's out there.
He's a little further down the road. I'll flag him down. All right, Gerritt, thank you so much for seriously the shake and bake, man, because I'm done shook. I got to tell you. So thank you for taking the time to join me and my tribe, giving us these pearls of wisdom and helping. It's another voice, right? I know how to color with a few crayons, but I can't color with all of them. I don't know how. So thank you for bringing your vast expertise and your gifts and those beautiful colors that you color with, so that my team has more has a bigger and richer and more beautiful life.
Thank you, Merrill. Thank you as well. And for those of you that don't know, in full disclosure, I am actually also a client of Merrill's. So I use his services because he helped me. Same thing as I have some obstacles in my way, but he helped me see those as opportunities. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's
a beautiful thing. Where can people get a hold of you, Gerritt? So if they're interested in, do you have a free gift that you can to offer them, a website, a phone, a place for them to be able to contact you?
Great question. So if you have any direct questions for me, you can send me a message on Facebook, or you can email me, Gerritt at performancecapitalgroup.com. If you're interested in Merrill kind of mentioned it there at the end, this idea of what's called the hero's journey, I do have a free guide. If you go to winthedailywar.com, you can download your free PDF, and it all talks about this hero's journey. Like, how do we get from where we're at to where we want to go?
winthedailywar.com. And by the way, I already have, I have his swag, Win the Daily War. And that's my little reminder. I just snap, win the daily war. So thank you again. And everyone, if you like what you're hearing, like us, comment, share this podcast with others. It's available on, make sure people understand that man, the last thing is the first thing for me, that you're not enough to be who you are, but the journey will teach you how to be there. Just have the commitment and the accountability to walk that path. Thanks so much for that message. I love it, Gerritt. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, Get Fundable Universe. And we're taking every day, we're taking this one step further, one more, just that that plus one, that extra mile to end your day, your week on the biggest, most positive note you can do. Love your loved ones, be kind, be generous, and be thoughtful to everybody you run into. This is Merrill Chandler. Have a great morning, good afternoon, or good night.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments, because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast, because we want them to get fundable too.